say, no hay excusa para no ser de ECUSA. So please talk to us after we finish with our panelists and we have our working reception. And let me please introduce Isabel Dominguez and Susana Aguirre, who will be moderating the panel.
Good evening, everyone. As Estivali said, we have a really diverse panel in careers in biomedicine, people that have studied a number of different things and come from different backgrounds. And we hope that this is of interest to you to help you get what you want to get. And so we have as panelists today Begoña Ruiz Pérez. She's an Associate Director of Medical Writing at Biogen. We have Jesus Cortez, he's a Senior Scientist at AbbVie. We have Pablo Zalewski, he's a Life Science Consultant at PA Consulting Group. And Miguel González Andrades, that is an instructor at Harvard University. We'd like to welcome all of our panelists. The variety of careers that our panelists have taken. Begoña studied a PhD in the University of Complutense of Madrid. She came to do a postdoc at Harvard Medical School, where she was also an instructor. She moved into IGAPE Pharmaceuticals, where she was a Senior Director of Preclinical Research, and she is right now, as I said, an Associate Director of Medical Writing at Biogen. Jesus studied his PhD in the Instituto Venezolano de Investigaciones Científicas. From there, he also moved to Harvard Medical School as a postdoc. And he did a subsequent postdoc at Boston University School of Medicine, and is right now a senior scientist, as I said, at AbbVie. Pablo did a BA in the University of the Basque Country, became a human resources consultant in human management systems. He became an outreach manager for the Basque Center on Cognition, Brain, and Language. Then she did an MA, a Master in Marketing, became an MBA at Babson, was a business intern at both Novartis and GSK, and now is a consultant. For Miguel, he studied his MD in the University of Granada, where he also obtained his PhD and he did a couple of masters. He also got another master from the University Autónoma of Barcelona, did his residency in the San Cecilio Hospital, also in Granada. He was a postdoc at Mass IMER, and now is an instructor at Harvard Medical School. As you can see, their careers are very diverse, but they all the thing that they have in common is that they all work in the biomedical field. We have prepared 4 questions for our panelists to answer, and then we will open the panelists to your questions. We will appreciate if your questions are general as opposed to specific of your particular case, and you can ask those questions during the networking event. Our first question to the panelists is: did you follow your original career plan, or have life or professional events guided you where you are now? Miguel?
So, well, thank you so much for your kind invitation to join this wonderful panel. I would say that I didn't follow the original pathway that normal ophthalmologists usually follow in Spain. I would say that my case is relatively weird. When I started MD, the medicine degree in Granada, in my second year I started doing research. Because of that research in eye research, corneal tissue engineering, finally I decided to start the residency in ophthalmology, which usually is the opposite. You start being an ophthalmologist and then you jump to research. So I'm doing my residency in ophthalmology, I finished my PhD. After finishing my residency in ophthalmology, I became a consultant, a surgeon in ophthalmology, I continue also with my research in the University of Granada, and because of my research, I got an award that finally I was invited to come to Boston because of that, and things that sometimes happen. I met Dr. Dolman, who is right now my boss. He proposed me to come here. Then I decided to quit my job there, and then I started my work here at Harvard Medical School 2 years ago. And right now I'm full-time doing research, and we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but for the moment, hopefully we can stay here for some many years.
Thank you. Begoña?
Oh, okay. I wasn't prepared for all the questions, but let's go for it. I'm just reading it again. My original career path, so it's, well, first, thank you so much for having me here. It's really a pleasure to be here. So, as you can see in the slides, I kind of move around quite a lot. Like at the beginning, I kind of follow kind of the pathway that a lot of us follow in Spain. When you finish your degree, you're not really sure what to do, and get into a PhD program without really knowing very well what that means. I like science, but honestly, I didn't know exactly where it was going to take me, but I felt like I did learn quite a lot, and then decided to continue there, do a postdoc. I have to say that a turning point in my career was when I was studying my PhD. I was in the Complutense, and we have this program where I could spend some time abroad. So what we did is we found a lab in the UK, in Manchester, that was doing similar research to what we were doing, and that was an eye-opener to me. I spent 4 months there, and I realized that my research wasn't just about what I was doing in my little lab in Madrid. There was a lot more. When I got to my lab in Manchester, the first thing my advisor told me was, oh, by the way, we're going next week to a meeting in Utah. Are you coming? I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? But what I learned from that is that there was a much larger work there from what I'd seen up to that point. So that kind of gave me, I think, the confidence to think, okay, so if there is something that I want to do, I will be able to do it. And slowly but surely I saw that, every time I wanted to move forward, there was somehow somebody that believed that I could do that. I think that gave me the push. So with this, what I'm trying to say, I think it's very important that if you think that you want to go somewhere, even if you don't have a clear idea where the end is, it's okay to move forward, and it's okay not to follow the exact path that everybody's following. And I think we have another example here.
Well, life is always more important than profession. So I think the decisions are always driven by life. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm not Spanish, so this is weird. I'll try to make a Spanish accent. I'm an MD by profession, and I was an emergency doctor, and I said I need to treat patients in a different way, so I need to understand science, because I was unable to open the New England Journal of Medicine and understand anything about it. It was too complicated. So I did a PhD in immunology, and then when I came here, my plan was to do clinical work and scientific work, and I realized that that wasn't compatible. I did all my USMLEs because that was my plan, so I did all the clinical work, I did 2 postdocs, and at the end, none of the things that I had planned actually worked. It was frustrating, yes. It was difficult, yes. It was hard, yes, but at the end, what Begoña is saying is true. You cannot fight a war that you cannot win. Sometimes you think that the plan is somewhere, but someone tells you, I think you should go this way, explore, be flexible, try something else. And then you discover that your situation is better suited for one avenue rather than other, and it requires courage, it requires strength to say, hey, my dream for all my life was to go this way, but it seems that door is closed now, and then you realize that there's 3 or 4 more open, and then you will suited to take one of those doors and go for it. And I think that's what it's been for me. Tough decisions, but successful at the end. But hard, painful, and learning a lot.
So I'm sort of from Spain, so thanks for coming. Thanks for inviting us. And to answer your question, yes and no. So and I was talking with no. And no, because just after college I started in recruitment. So basically interviewing people after my BA in psychology. What you learn in psychology is actually to listen to people. So I started interviewing people. Then I moved to China, and my plan was to be there for 2 years. That was the first plan. And that was in late 2008, so maybe some of you might remember what happened in those years, basically the global economic crisis. So after a couple of months, my company decided to close our office over there, and I came back to Spain. So first time of being 2 years in China, didn't work. So I went back to Spain and started working in a research center on cognitive neuroscience and different business aspects. But then I came here to Boston actually for 1 week at Harvard. And on my way back, actually, I was like, okay, when I come back here to Boston for at least a couple of years. So that's how I came here to Babson. After my MBA, I worked in pharma, nothing to do with my previous experience, nothing to do with my previous plans. And finally, I ended up working in management consulting. So now going back to the yes, because initially, especially out of college, my vision was to analyze what keeps people awake basically at night and try to help them to solve their problems. And that's actually what I do now. So now I help our clients to solve the problems or the issues that keep them awake. So yes, no.
Thank you. The next question is, what skills did you need to acquire to fulfill your job? For instance, Veronica, start with you.
Yeah, so I think when the last move that I made, which was going into the medical writing, at the beginning I was obsessed with what I need to learn, that more of the technical pieces that I have to learn. I didn't really know regulations as much as I should to do this job, for example. But then I realized that those are things that you can learn, and we've all been in school for many years, and we know how to study those things, and you can learn it. But I think what I've been taking with me through all the different positions that I had are mainly 3 things in terms of the skills. One is, and they are all things that we again learn very early in our careers. The first, I think, is the critical thinking. As a scientist, we know how to do that very well, and you just need to apply it no matter what position you are in. So I'm applying it in my position every day. Communication is another skill that is, I believe, is very much needed. Right now as a medical writer, that's what I do. Probably most people don't know what a medical writer do. But basically, we're in charge of all the clinical and regulatory documentation needed for clinical development. So pretty much what I do is take ideas, take data, take designs, and then make a cohesive story that we can tell the regulators or the physicians or the patients that we are enrolled in our trials. So I had to communicate well in many different aspects, and one thing that I have learned is that you have to adapt your communication depending on your audience, and that's something that I think we can translate to many positions. That is a very important skill. And then the third one I want to mention is leadership, because I feel like no matter how big or small your project is, you have to own it, and you have to be the leader, and you have to be able to defend it in front of whoever. So it doesn't matter how big or small your audience is. When you're working on something, this you need to own it and you need to be the leader for it. So you can lead people, but you can also lead your project. So I would say those three are the key ones.
I think there's two aspects about this. One is personal learning, and the other is professional learning. From the personal standpoint, learn to be consistent, reliable, dependable. Your word needs to mean something. That's fundamental for the work we do, and it's fundamental for living. If you say something and you commit to something, you just need to have the backbone to go ahead and deliver it. One thing that I've learned, especially working in the private sector, is that people are not hired based on their professional skills only. We get CVs from Harvard, MIT, and when you see them, science, nature papers, I mean, how you can decide that? The deal breaker is when that person goes to an interview, how good are they presenting? How are their social skills? How are their team dynamics? Their leadership background? What they can do outside of work? That matters tremendously. So the only way to learn that is to do things that are not related to work. If you struggle with your social skills, there's many ways to expand that. If you struggle with your ability to speak with people, public speaking, that's something that you need to do. Because at the end, the question that we ask all the time is, can we work with this person? Can this person be part of the team and deliver what we want them to deliver? And that has nothing to do with what the CV says. That's something that you learn in 30 minutes conversation. When you have those 5 minutes, you need to be able to say who you are as a person and not only as a professional. So I think those are the two skills, personally and professionally, that needs to be developed.
Yeah, totally agree with that point. Actually, it's very important, the communication skills and whether you can actually work with this person or not. So in consulting, we say, do you actually want to spend a couple of hours with this person in the airport when you're waiting for a flight that was late? So that's the first one. Do you actually want to spend those hours with that person? Because it's going to happen. And that's kind of like a joke that actually that can be translated into many other scenarios, right? So, just to add to what my colleague said here, one thing that I learned actually that is very, very important, at least for the type of job that we do in consulting, and this is something that was mentioned in one of the commencement ceremonies last year in our school, actually by the founder of the TED Talks, was students should be graded not by the quality of answers that they give, but by the quality of questions that they ask. So something actually that's very, very important in our business is how to ask the right question that can help the client to eventually find, the answer or potential answer to this sort of problem. So that's something really, really important. And for that, you do need to have some industry background, you do need to have some business background. And in a very, very specific case of myself, it's about pharma industry and clinical development. And at the same time, people bring consultants usually to not only bring some very innovative ideas, but sometimes to structure the ideas that the company really has. So the ability to give some structures, some framework, some organization of both ideas and people, that's something really important, especially when you work with scientists or people in the pharma industry.
So I totally agree with the three of them. For sure, you need communications abilities, critical thinking. You have to be social. You have to be a good professional. And then apart from that, I would say that at least in my career, what I see that sometimes you need is curiosity. For starting in the scientific world, you need to, as they were saying, you need to ask the right question, not only to the people that you have around, but also to yourself. Apart from that, I would say that you have to have innovative thinking, not only critical thinking, but also you have to know how to innovate, to know how to be different in the environment that you are working. After that, I would say that you have to be also perseverant. You have to work and be always there, push always, trying to move always forward. And always something I think that it's really important. You have to always you have to have that passion that moves you to continue with that. Passion, I think it's always necessary in not only the scientific world, also in industry, but also in the medical world.
Thank you very much. Now the next question is, did you have mentors during your career, and how is it was to find a mentor in the USA compared to other countries?
Unfortunately, I did not, and that's a huge mistake. I didn't have any mentors because I had two problems. I'm very, very shy, and I don't like to bother people. And that's a fundamental problem. Why? Here in the United States, there's a big culture about mentoring. People love to mentor. People love to help. In other countries, that figure is not so prevalent, but here, there's some kind of pedigree. You say, yes, I coach people. And I didn't know that. And the price I had to pay is I made a lot of mistakes that were completely unnecessary. It was a waste of time trying to solve something that was already solved or something that didn't have an answer. So it was not a good approach for me. So my recommendation is, since having a mentor or a coach is so fundamental, the first thing that you have to do is you need to identify what you need to be coached at. If it's communication, then you find someone that is very good at communicating, and for them it's not an effort to coach you through the process. It will be very difficult for me to ask probably my friend, hey, I'm interested in astronomy, can you help me in that? The guy will have to learn all that in order to help me. So identify someone that is really catered for your need. That's important. The second thing is make their job easy. Give them a task. This is what I need. And be compassionate with them. Use the right time and be giving. They're giving you time, you give them back your time. It's really important to do that because if you say, hey, I apply what you said, I'm doing better, this is the next step. So there is a sense of moving, not only for you, but also for the mentor. And I think the most important aspect is, a lot of people give advice. Giving advice is easy and cheap, but not everybody is invested in your career. If the person is not invested in your development, it's a waste of your time and a waste of their time. So try to find someone that is really one to help you develop their aspect of the career. And I have many mentors. I have mentors that I work for years together, and I have mentors that I only work for them for a couple of weeks, a month, or 3 months. And when I learn something from them, I can move on, but I always go back and give feedback on them. And I become now some mentors. They say, hey, Jesus, what do you think about this? And now it becomes a friendship. So I think for foreigners, don't do anything until you really understand the culture, and that cultural gap, a mentor is a person that can actually help you feel it. So I think it's a must.
Yeah, so in Spain I didn't have an official mentor. I work with smart people and I try to be close to them, but I didn't have an official mentor. Here in the US it was completely different. Actually, so back in grad school, we had some sort of official mentorship program with some people coming from the industry, actually, to basically guide mainly international students, to guide them through how to get into the US market. We also had some mentorship programs, or sort of programs for local students, but the school was making an effort, especially for international students. In my current company, we do have an official program of mentorship, where we actually have a person who is more senior to you and who works in a different practice. So you can actually you can tell that person almost everything, because that person is not working on your project or is not working with your supervisor or with your line manager. So that's something that I really appreciate, and I think it's very, very useful to have that difference between who is your line manager, who is your supervisor, or your friends within your industry, or who is your mentor within the company, which is very important.
So I was fortunate of finding relatively soon really good mentors here. I think that also the key element here is that all the mentors here, part of their success is also your success. So if the mentee finally can move forward in the academic career, in the industry, finally the mentor is going to also success in that. In my experience, my first mentor here was my boss, the one that proposed me to come here and start working as a postdoc in my senior at Harvard Medical School. Once I started working, I was so lucky of, meeting a lot of people, but especially I found one I supported because he's also Spanish. It's easy to communicate, it's easy to find this connection that sometimes, relatively always, we find between people from the same country. So it was easy to establish this friendship relation. And then finally, he established like a perfect mentor for me, someone that can push your career and also move forward in the academic environment that sometimes it's hard to move if you don't have the perfect mentor for that. And also I would say that you can find a really good mentor also. If you start collaborating in the scientific world, you're going to collaborate with different universities, different people. And I was so lucky also finding here at MIT some collaborators, and finally I also found a mentor with some PI, a PI here that is working in engineering. So I could also have this engineering background that I didn't have. And now, based on these three mentors, now I can push my career in the academic environment.
So I had a similar situation with Jesus. I did have a formal mentor, and it's a huge disadvantage, because you are, as you said, you're making mistakes that you didn't really have to. Or you may not be making mistakes, but it's taking much more effort and time to get to the same place. So during the years that I was in academia, I have fantastic managers, but the figure of the mentor is really very different, because there has to be a separation between what your goals and objectives are and what you need to be mentor on. So it definitely had to be different people. When I learned that, what I've been doing is in a few occasions I have used my previous boss as a mentor, because I was lucky to have good managers and establish a good relationship with them. So I have done that in some occasions, but also mainly in the company, trying to identify people, most of the time from other departments, people that I see how they work and I like it, and it may not be even close to what I do. But you have to look at a higher level and not look at how can somebody mentor me on this specific process. You can learn that from somebody in your department. You can go to a training session or something like that. These are more, again, about the skills, also the soft skills that you should be developing. So what I found more helpful is to try to find people that are not too close to what I do, so they can see it from a different perspective. But yeah, unfortunately I made that mistake as well, so I hope nobody else does.
Thank you. Our final question is, you have responded a little bit already. When applying to jobs here in the US, how it compares to other countries in the measure of soft skills, community service, or even hobbies? How do they measure this?
Yeah. So I would say here in the US, both the resume and the interview is about how did you make an impact in your career. So what was your impact in your company? What impact did you have with your clients? Rather than how many years did you work for that company, or what was your job position. For sure that job position is important, but especially what was your impact and why the company was better then with you than without you, and why the company is better now because you worked for them rather than without having that case. In terms of the soft skills, I would say that especially here in Americans are very good communicators, are very good sellers, and in Spain, mainly for those part from the northern Spain, in Basque Country, we are very good doers, but maybe not that good sellers, and that's something that we need to adjust here when it comes to the US. As well as, I think here it's important to demonstrate that you are capable and able, and you have some experience of working with different cultures and people from different countries. So something that is very, very common in science and academia but at least in Spain, in the private sector, it's not that common. Another difference is time of company. So in Spain, if you have a resume, people who have been changing, from switching, jumping from companies to company every year or every 2 years, that's not good. Here in the US, actually, it's very well perceived if you had some different diverse experience, if you change, from company to company every couple of years, especially in the first 10 years of your career, that's something positive because you can bring diversity and you can bring innovation. And in Spain, employers, they look for stability, which sometimes actually limits innovation. And again, I might be biased by the private sector. I know that in science and academia it's something very, very common to jump from center to center based on the grants that you have. But in the private sector, it's not that common. About hobbies and community service, we need to differentiate hobbies versus community service. Hobbies is your personal thing, it's what you do. Here, mainly in the US, mainly no one cares what you do in your personal life, as long as it's just your personal life. If you do some community service, or if some of your hobbies can bring some skills, such as leadership skills or organizational skills, then it is important. And then it is relevant. It is not relevant if you love reading books or going to the cinema. That's something not relevant. And I'll shut up now.
So I think that we've been talking about this in the previous question and also what Pablo mentioned right now. I totally agree with that. Maybe I would say that maybe in academia it's a little bit different, as Pablo said. It's true that because of the grants you can jump, and sometimes you have to understand that. But I think it's something that we also take into account when you are evaluating a CV and you want to hire someone. You want to see that someone is committed to a group, a research group. You usually like someone that has been working in a group and has some background and maybe has been publishing and working in research, and you can see some production of that. So, as he said, usually it's not very good if you see that someone has been jumping to many places in a very short period of time. But focusing on what I think that people usually like to see is for sure leadership skills. You want to see someone that is capable of running a project by himself, someone that can push and move forward your research project. Also communication skills, but usually here in US you can see that relatively easy. Maybe as Pablo said, in Spain we have this lack of communication skills, but usually people, once you're here, you start gaining that part. And then the social part, I think that it's true. People don't care about your free time. You can do whatever you want, nobody's gonna ask you. And even sometimes, once you're out of the work, you don't know some people that you can have around. The good thing, at least in academia or in our scientific environment, is that usually you create this friendship environment with the people you have next to you. Usually in the scientific environment here, people are from everywhere. Sometimes they are not from US, but you can find from France, China, India, mainly every single country. And finally, you can have really good friends and also really good collaborators and people who you can always work with them.
So I agree 100% with what you're saying, but there's very little to add there. I'm just going to get to a couple of specifics maybe that could be helpful. So in terms of the application, when we, in my department for example, when we are looking through resumes to fill a new position, the resumes are all pretty similar. When you apply for a job, there's a job description, and then if you can fit that job description more or less, you apply. So there is really not much difference between, this was mentioned that before, to be a little different the project you have worked on, but you have X number of experience in this field, and that's pretty much the same in the resume. What really differentiates is what else are you sending with that. So for us, for example, the letters are very important, maybe because we're writers and we like to see a sample of how people communicate, but you have to show how you are unique, because your resume or your CV is not going to say that. So you are the first one that, again, have to be a leader. You have to be able to talk about yourself and sell yourself. Why are you good for this position? So it can be just a dry resume. It's important that people take time and effort to write that, and it's not just the standard that you Google introduction letter and then it comes out and you copy and paste. So I think that is very important. Then in terms of the interview itself, I think because of our culture, sometimes we get a little too much in the personal space, and as it has been said here before, it doesn't matter what you do in your personal life. It doesn't matter if you're married, have kids, you're single, it really doesn't matter. What you're there for is to show that what experience you had, but not only that, how you can move your experience into this new position. So again, sell yourself. Show that you are the best person that they're going to interview for this job, and why. Try to be innovative. Be ready with very specific examples when you get questions. Just be able to respond. For example, again, I'm going to the leadership, but be prepared with an example that in my last position, I was able to show leadership when I did X, and not just some very general questions. So those are some tips that I've seen that have worked in companies here. And I can tell you how different it is from how the application is in Spain, because I never applied for a job there, but I've seen this working well here.
Can I just add one comment to that? I think it's very important what you mentioned about your personal, whether you're married or not, whether you have kids or not. For those who are not from Spain here in the audience, in Spain it is legal to ask those questions in an interview, and the US it is not legal. So that's why here we're talking about this topic, because it's relevant. That's the key difference. Here it is not legal. In Spain, first question, date of birth. After a couple of questions, especially if you want to bring someone from another country, we have family that will come with you or not. Here, those questions are not legal, and actually it makes sense that they are not legal.
I want to make 2 points. The first one, do not apply to any job if you don't understand what's going on. I think that's one mistake. Right? You rush and you want to make it happen, and that's not a very good approach. So take your time. And I think that hobbies and community service is very, very important. Not in your application, but who you are as an individual. When you're doing community service, it tells you who you are as a person. You meet people that are close to you, similar type of understanding, and relationships are very strong when you do community service. And that's a place where you can culture relationships and work and start from there. And hobbies also, from the superficial standpoint, I've been in interviews process when someone tells you, oh, I really like that painting that you have about this person, and there's no name, the person just recognized the painting. Then you have a conversation about what's going on. Your hobby is a gateway to a human conversation that is not only work. And that is when you really know what the person is all about. Let's say, if you're from the north of Spain and just from the south of Spain, outside of Spain, we're good. But if we're talking about soccer, we're not good. Understanding that is important. So hobbies and what you do as a human being, I think it's really important because it comes through the interview process. My questions at the beginning in an interview are really, CV-based. And then, what do you do, in your free time? Oh, I only work and I do this Saturday and Sunday. Red flag for me. Why? Because, this job is very demanding. I want you to have a gateway to have a life, because if things fail in the lab, you still have your life to support you. So those things to develop, I think is important. I recommend people to put, interest in their CVs, because sometimes highlight, I really like photography. And I like photography, and then we can start talking about that. It's not gonna get you a job, but can get you a conversation, and that's sometimes what matters.
Thank you very much to all of you for answering our questions, and now the panelists are open for your questions.
Hi, thank you very much, all of you. It was really nice and really inspiring especially for the young ones. I wanted to ask you, especially what Jesus was saying, the last part of his talk, like the equilibrium between work life and time off. Like there's this huge movement going around, especially YouTube and Facebook, either by Paul Nurse, a Nobel laureate and now a director of the Greek Institute, that he believes that scientists like we should never work 24/7, and for the time off is crucial for us because it's only when we get inspired. So he has these YouTube videos that everyone likes, his comments about it. So I would like to know like your opinion about it, like, and especially like operate like here and in Spain. Like, how do you think like is there a difference in that equilibrium here and in Spain, and more or less like your experience on finding that equilibrium?
So what is Spain? I have no clue. But you guys have siesta, which is great. I have dinner at 11 p.m., which is not that great, but balance. What's your name?
Josefa.
Josefa. Balance is the hardest part of life. Knowing when you stop working and when life starts. And I think the most important aspect is to know what do you really want. If you identify what you need as a person and as a professional, and those things are synchronized very well, then it becomes passion. Going to the lab one weekend is not a big deal. If you know that that will help you to be a better person, then there's no issue. But when everything is work, when everything is that, and your life is surrounded just by that environment, and work fails, which is going to fail. You know, the best scientists I work with, 98% of the things they do fail. And they're the best ones. If you are horrible, everything will fail. I mean, that's what science is all about. You're living in that edge of fantasy and reality. You're making things true. And that's a hard thing. So I think having the balance is fundamental. I'm the first person that tell the people that report to me, if you're sick, I don't want to see you here. If your son has a problem, don't go to work. I don't want to see you around because your head is not going to be here. I was telling Miguel today, I run today an experiment that cost $30,000. If all the team, and the team was like 10 people, we are not focused, it's a big deal for everyone. So what do you do outside work? Personally, I do acting, I do public speaking, I do photography, I do everything that allows me to do something that triggers creativity, and then when I'm in the lab, I'm able to ask the right question. Ask people, am I doing the right thing? Because that allows you to be more human. If you leave that part and you're 24/7, you're just going to stick your science to a little hole. And the little hole is how you think about it. And that's not the right approach. The best approach is ask everyone else, hey, what do you think about this idea? It sucks. Okay. You're silent for 1 minute and then you say, okay, I'm going to think about it. And then you develop it.
I think companies are becoming more and more aware of the need of being flexible. You know, we have a lot of people that never take their vacations, and the company at some point decided that they have to force people to take vacation because it is very important. So I think companies in general are becoming more aware of this, are installing more ways to work from home, have flexible hours. It's still a work in progress, I think, but it is important that not only the workers, but also HR and all the departments in the companies are acknowledging this and doing something about it. I think it's also, it's something that Jesus mentioned. I think it's very important that you know what you want. So not everybody has to be the CEO of the company. Not everybody has to be the lead of the group. You have to understand what is important for you. And if what's important for you is to be at this level, but have a time with your family, time from your hobbies, time of whatever is important for you, you should not really push to go any higher because you're gonna pay for it. But if what you want is to go to a higher level, then absolutely go for it. But I understand the consequences. So I think it's a personal responsibility to first know where you want to be and what is important to you, and then with that, understand in your environment, in your company, in your lab, wherever you are, what are the possibilities there. So it's a question of being realistic.
Questions?
Well, thank you for all. This has been really enriching for me. This question is for Miguel and Begoña. Comparing your professional and personal life here and in Spain, do you consider coming back to Spain?
Yeah. And we were discussing that in with Jesus also. Basically, as you know, everybody knows here, you have been in Spain for sure. Quality of life in Spain is quite different to the US. Timing, for sure, we have dinner at 11 p.m., sometimes even later than that. Life is totally different. You can be at night, 12 p.m. outside with your baby. Here, they're going to ask you, what are you doing out? It happened to me. So it's part of our decision, I would say, and you have to find the balance. So it's also with the question that Josefa made. You need to choose, and finally, go for it. You need to put your limits, and also finally, this is what you are looking for, and this is what you want to do in your life. Being here, working here, at least in my case, for example, professionally, I have everything that I want. So I'm here, the happiest person ever. I'm happy going to my lab, doing the research that I want, even when the people ask me, but you're not gonna see any patient. You're gonna forget about your surgery. I don't care. So even when I'm earning less money than something that I could do there in Spain doing clinic, but then there are other things that finally compensate your life. So for the moment, we're gonna be here. I cannot tell you what we are gonna do in the future. My wife is from Seville. We have a little kid, 16 months old. We are expecting to have another one in April. I know that life here in Boston is relatively expensive, as we know. So a family with 4 members and just one salary, and a salary from academia, not for industry. So you start to think that maybe the balance is changing. So at least we know for sure that we're gonna be here for at least 2 years. That this is my last contract. I hope to be here for much more than that. But it's a question that maybe tomorrow we are changing. So it's like when I was in Spain, I was so happy there. I was also doing research. I was doing clinic. It was fine for me. And then suddenly I received the proposal here, and I quit everything. And I was fine. I mean, myself. So I know a lot of people that came here to the US because they couldn't find their job. They couldn't find anything to do in Spain, and then finally they decided to be immigrants and came here. That, thanks God, it was not my option. I suffered something different. I was fine there. I found here what I wanted to do. So all my passion was here to do the research that I wanted. So that was changing my balance. In some years from now on, we don't know. But you should be, Jesus and Pablo said that before, you have to adapt. So you should be totally open to what you can receive, and then maybe you can change tomorrow, or maybe in 2 years, or you don't know. But you should, at least I think that you should find what is making you happy. So that's I think the key element. You should be happy every single day. If you go into work and you're not happy there, I think finally you're not working, you're becoming like a slave. So I think that you should avoid that. So just looking for your happiness.
Well, personally, I'm not considering going back at the moment for personal reasons, but I think to your point, everybody should have a different way and have different reasons for doing things in life. And what I would say is, if you are planning on going back to Spain, take your time to find the right place, because I think sometimes we make these type of decisions with the heart and not with the mind, and think, okay, my family's there, I miss my friends so much, and I see this little opportunity to go back to the lab where I was, where they are offering me 6 months of contract and then who knows what. And it's very sad when you go back and then you are miserable, and then you feel like, why did I make that decision? You may go back and it may be perfectly fine, but I think my advice is just to take time to analyze and make sure that it's the right decision. I've been there, I had a job offer and it looked great, but you know, after I thought about it, well, this is not the right time or the right place to do that. So I think that is one of the decisions that you have to use both your brain and your heart, but a little more your brain, maybe.
Thank you very much for this meeting. My question is about communication skill. We are not American, so our language is different. And especially, this question is especially for Begonia. I see you're working on medical writing. How important is being American, having like English like your first language? Is that limiting stuff for that kind of career? Do you think that you guys prefer to hire people that from this country, for example, because of that?
So I thought I couldn't be a medical writer because English is not my first language. Until I understood what really medical writing is. So I was, when I was at IG Pharmaceuticals, I was working on the non-clinical group there. I was running that group. And then I started writing all the documentation that was needed for an IND submission, so regulatory and clinical documents. I had no idea there was a career called medical writing, no clue. I was doing it because it was needed. And then when I was trying to find a career that was more suited for having a family and not having to go to the lab on Thanksgiving if possible, and those type of things, I started looking around. I was interested in project management because I thought I could be good at that. But then what I did, and this is something that may tie to some of the questions that we had earlier, what I did was I talked to a lot of people just to try to understand what they were doing. And then I came across medical writing because, in fact, it's part of what I was doing before. But I was very nervous to do this because I was thinking how anybody's going to hire a medical writer that's English is not the first language. But what we really do is being scientists, understand the data, understand the designs of the study, understand the company position, and then translate it into a scientific document. And we do that as scientists a lot. The advantage is, once I'm done, there is this fantastic document quality group that goes through all my documents. And there are English majors and wonderful people, and if I use Spanglish, they tell me, and so nothing goes out the door without that group seeing it. But it's not just me, it's everybody else. So that's very specific to what I do, but I think if we look at this from a higher level, there are things that you may be able to do, and you are the one kind of stopping yourself from doing it. So if you are interested in something, just investigate if there is a possibility, and don't stop yourself from doing it, because on paper it may sound impossible, and it is possible.
Thank you. Do we have a final question?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your experiences. I have a question for you, please. You know, I have heard about your personal skills, psychological skills, Okay, I'm right. Obviously, we need personal skills in order to obtain a success in medical or in business environment. But what about formation? What about formation? That is to say, my question is, in which percentage do you think that your initial formation here in Harvard, in Babson, Harvard, or in Spain, Granada, in the Basque Country, in Madrid, and in Venezuela, in which percentage your initial formation contribute your success now? It's obvious that personal skills are very important, but in a 10%, 20%, 25%, 30%, in which percentage your formation was important? I am obviously a professor of a university in Spain, and I would like to know what is our role and how is our job.
I can take that. I studied at the University of the Basque Country, psychology, and master's in marketing at ECUSA, which is a business school in Spain, and then here at CAPS, I got my MBA. Yeah, that kind of diverse training. I would say that the training for the academic education that you get is kind of the starting point, right? So you need to have that. So even start with the conversation about your soft skills. It's also true that one of the big differences that I found, especially in the business, in the business area, between the training I got in Spain versus the one I got here, is that in Spain it's much more theoretical. I would say that the link between academia and industry in Spain is very, very limited as compared to the link between academia and industry here in the US. So something that actually I got here in grad school in the US was that continuous, that ongoing connection with the industry. So not only through professors who at the same time are consultants who work with actual clients, with actual companies, and can apply, for sure that all of them are PhDs, but they can apply their background that they got in academia when they were in academia, plus the background that they are getting through direct or through ongoing experience with clients, and they can bring that to the classroom. That happens only in some private business schools in Spain, not in the majority of public universities, I would say, not in my case at least. I would say that it is really important, but I would say what's more important than the training is how you link that training to the industry, which at the same time, it will tell you whether what you are learning now is trying to solve the problems that companies have now, instead of the problems that the companies had when your professor got his or her PhD 20 years ago. And that's something that happens when you look about business problems in some universities in Spain. It is also true, as I said, there are some very good private, probably mostly private business schools in Spain who do have that link as well. So regardless whether it's private or public, I would say that that link between academia and industry, that's what actually is important.
Can I add something to that? Professor, what's your name?
Alberto.
Alberto. Let me give you a philosophical answer to this, and I'm going to give you a percentage at the end. There is this hummingbird in this forest. The forest is catching fire, and all the animals are running away from the forest. And the hummingbird is flying to the closest pond, and is taking a little drop of water, and is flying back and forward to try to extinguish the fire. There's the monkey that looks at the hummingbird and says, "Hey, what are you doing? Do you think you're going to extinguish the fire with that little drop of water that your beak can hold?" The hummingbird looks at the monkey and said, "I don't know if I'm going to be able to extinguish the fire. I just know that I'm doing the right thing." formation is 100% of who you are. There's not bad education or good education in the terms of how do you take that education. There's better schools, but if you do your best, I come from Venezuela, I come from a public school, I did my school in a public university, and if you do the right thing, and even when you have the temptation of running away from the forest, and you persist, formation is everything. I thought when I joined Harvard that I wouldn't know anything. I've come from Venezuela. Come on. Really? Harvard? And then you're there and say, hey, yes, these guys are super bright, but I have good material to be better, and that's what matters. Then I moved to BU and said, oh, is going from Harvard to BU that's going down? No, actually, I learned a lot of things. But the most important thing was my formation back home, what values I had, that culture that I learned there, and how to be flexible now in an environment that's totally different. So the question is, do you want to be the hummingbird or do you want to be the monkey? It doesn't really matter. It's a matter of value and formation, I would say. So thank you for the question.
Would you like to add anything?
No, well, I always add something. But I always say no and then I think it opens the doors. If you don't have that base, there's nowhere you can go. I had a similar experience when I got to Harvard. I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do here? And it was fine. I had a lot to learn, but I have the base. And if you don't have that base, you can't go anywhere. How much I use on my daily job, specifically what I study, I don't know, it depends on the days. Some days a lot, some days not at all. But if I didn't have that, the doors would have never opened to me. So I think it is very important that the new generations still understand that.
I mean, after what they say, for sure what Jesus said perfectly, even when you're from Venezuela or when you're from Granada, you for sure, the University of Granada. I think that if you know what you want, if you do the thing that you have to do, the right thing, and if you fight for that, then you don't have any kind of limits. The only limits that you're going to have is those that you want to put yourself. For sure you need 100% of formation. There's no 50% for formation, 50% for soft skills, or basically 100% formation. Then after that, you can work on the rest of the things for finally working Harvard, BU, or MIT, or wherever. But you need for sure formation. Even when you're not going to need that, finally, I'm not using my skills as a clinician for sure. Maybe for my rabbits or my mice, maybe, but not for I've been spending 4 years of my life doing surgery and clinic. But finally you realize that all these years of formation, the MD, the PhD, the residency, even when you're not using every single day those concepts, that knowledge, finally it's part of your background, and maybe for those questions that you need in the scientific world, maybe your personality in the industry world, finally it's all your life that it's going to be there, and finally this is what the industry or academia is what they are looking for. Those values that you've been developing during your whole life.
We would like to thank you for please stay and join us for the networking that is happening after the panelists finish, and you can ask them any question that you want. Thank you again for attending.